In games, audio design is mainly made up of two typically separate disciplines, music and sound effects. But imagine a game where the sound effects are musical too. That is Sorelle, a whimsical 3D puzzle platformer developed by Team Sorelle and published by USC Games. Sorelle was recently a finalist for Best Audio for an Indie Game and Best Sound Design for an Indie Game at the Game Audio Network Guild Awards. But just what makes its audio good? How is the sound design of Sorelle able to capture the childlike wonder and whimsy of Pixar films? Welcome to Player by Ear. I'm an up-and-coming sound designer and all-around game audio enthusiast. Let's dive right into the musical wonders of Sorelle. In Sorelle, you play as three magical sisters exploring an Italian seaside town. Visually and musically, the game is inspired by Pixar films, especially Luca. The game boasts a dynamic Italian-inspired score that reflects each sister's personality and powers. Each sister has her own sonic palette that dictates the different music layers depending on which sister you currently have active. First, there's Capri, the youngest sister. She's a little kid full of vibrant, youthful energy and the power to shoot beams of light. As a result, she has the most light and sparkly sonic palette. Her sound palette is largely made up of chimes, bells, and flutes to create this sense of lightness. Next, there's Bella, the middle child. She's brash and rough, and this is reflected by her power to high jump and crash through surfaces. Whether that be drums, tambourine, or marimba, her sound palette creates this sense of power and charging forward. Lastly, there's Alessandra, the oldest sister. She is the mature leader of the group who looks after the other two sisters, and she has the power to levitate objects. To evoke that sense of a loving, mature older sister, her sound palette consists of warm string instruments, and not just orchestral strings like violins, but also plucked strings like guitars and mandolins. In fact, music is such a big part of the game that even the sound design is magical. That's right, even the sound effects down to the sisters' magical abilities also use musical instruments and follow a similar sound palette as the music. So Capri's light magic is made up of chimes, Bella's sounds are made up of percussion, and Alessandra's is made up of plucked string instruments. And the sound design plays a huge role in supporting and complementing the music, but it goes one step further. Not only is the sound design made up of musical instruments, almost every sound in the game is also tuned in real time to chord changes in the music. This is why the sound effects never sound dissonant with the music. And it's not just tuned to the root note of the chord, certain sounds ascend up a musical scale, and that scale changes depending on the chord. Take for example the sound of Capri's light magic bouncing around. Altogether, this emphasis on musicality and attention to detail creates this sense of whimsy and childlike, Pixar-like wonder that defines Sorelle and makes every action by the player all the more satisfying. That's all for this week. This was Player by Ear. Join me next week when I'll be taking a look at another game nominated for the Game Audio Network Guild Awards.